Hey everybody, my name is David. Welcome to the Tuesday, April 9th. Yeah, April 9th MakerDAO community call. In this community call, as you've heard me say in the past, hopefully, we cover all the things that have been going on in the MakerDAO universe for the last year, as well as some of the events that are going to be coming up in the near future. We also hold this call, generally speaking, to address things in the community and talk about just stuff about Maker in general. And today we have a special guest with us, Brian Avello, who is the general counsel for the Maker Foundation. And we're going to be changing up the format. Usually, Brian, can you just mute yourself for just a second?
Sure, hold on.
Yeah, so today we're going to be changing up the format a little bit. Typically, we do like events first, and then we go on to like technical milestones, some notable things, partnerships, and then highlights from the community. I'm going to reserve that for the last half hour of this call. For the first half hour, I'm going to be introducing Brian, and I'm going to be mediating some Q&A, basically a Q&A session. And so I'm going to go through a list of about 9 questions that I've collected that are sort of outstanding questions that the community has had in regards to some of the stuff that's been going on in general and in the community. So I'm going to go over those first, and then after that, if anybody has additional questions that you think I've missed or that you want specific answers to, post it in the chat, and I will gladly put them forth to Brian. Brian will see them. You could ask them yourself as well. But for this first portion, I'm just going to go over these questions that I've collected. So without further ado, Brian, if you're there.
I am here.
Yeah, so go right ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Brian Avello, General Counsel here at the Foundation. Been working with the team since early July last year. I think I was on one of these calls, like August, September of last year. But I follow them pretty closely, and like I said, tried to get involved a little bit in general internal. I saw some questions regarding, that were directed to David. I just thought it'd be more appropriate to have me on the phone. It's just a little easier to do it. So he's not being put in a position where he's relaying information back and forth. It's just easier to do it this way. So fire away.
All right. Thanks, Brian. So,
sure.
So a lot of the questions from the community were about the MakerDAO Ecosystem Growth Foundation board. So one of the first things I'm going to ask is about the dev fund and its ability to vote. What prevents it from voting?
Sure.
And generally speaking, what is the designation of the dev fund?
Sure. So the dev fund traditionally, for those of you who have not been following the project for a long time, has never voted. At least as far as I know, and I've been following the project probably since mid-2016, thereabouts, has never voted, and it's there's a cultural aspect to it. It has never voted, has never been voted, and there was never any intention on anyone, I think even prior to the setup of the foundation or at the foundation, to ever vote the dev fund. So there's this very strong cultural component to never do that. At the same time, the bylaws of the foundation, we're talking about having this legal requirement that the dev fund is not voted. There are specific bylaws that prohibit the dev fund from ever being voted, right, by the foundation. So the thinking is that you have this subset of MKR that, while on paper represents 25% or so of the total MKR that's in existence, but is basically being removed from being able to take place in governance. So the idea being that you have the platform itself, the Dai protocol, is governed solely by the MKR voters who are actively participating in governance, attending the governance calls, voting, etc. And that 24 whatever percentage of the dev fund that whatever percentage that the dev fund represents is removed from being able to partake in voting and active governance. Does that make sense?
Sure. So two questions to follow up.
So
first,
I think Chris,
hold on, Chris.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna get through.
I think it's important.
Would you be comfortable sharing?
No, Chris.
Would you be comfortable sharing?
Chris, can you let me finish my sentence. Before we get into questions, I think it's important for everyone who starts asking questions to give an introduction as to who they are, who they're working for, what have you, just so we have a little bit of understanding as to where the questions are coming from.
Agreed. And also, I would really like... Actually, you know what? That's fine. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So I'm Chris Padavano. I previously worked for a company called Stablecoin Liquidity Services. I have no relationship to the foundation. And I'm curious if you would be comfortable sharing the bylaws of the foundation. And then secondly, who amends the bylaws of the foundation? Is that put to community vote, or is that kind of the internal governance of the foundation itself?
I think at some point soon, I don't have a date as to when we'll be able to do it, but I'm sure at some point soon, as part of putting together something along the lines of this Claros transparency report that was put into the general internal, of which I think very highly. I'm sure we'd be able to make those public at some point. They're not a public document.
The bylaws?
They're not a public document. And I'm sure we probably could do that at some point soon. I don't have a date on when we're doing it or what have you.
Do you have a guess, maybe? Like, is it like a couple of days or a week or a month?
Chris, I haven't really given it much thought. I mean, I'm sure that, well, I think it's actually really important to clarify Chris's relationship here. Chris was really the attorney for Maker for quite some time, right? So I think it's you're asking a lot of questions that you were involved at the foundation or whatever the earlier iteration of it was for quite some time. So it's important to realize. Yeah.
Did I draft the bylaws though?
Chris, you and I worked together. Well, I'm not going to get into some kind of contentious conversation with you. I'm trying to have a civil conversation that answers the questions of everyone involved.
Sure. So let's avoid ad hominem.
I don't think it's Chris.
Let's avoid ad hominem. Let's avoid ad hominem.
Chris, let me finish my sentence.
We have plenty of questions to go through.
Chris, please let me finish my sentence. I'm trying to be reasonable here. I don't know a date on when those bylaws could be shared. I'm sure we could do it at some point in time. So I don't have a date. I just don't. You're asking a question I don't have the answer to.
So it sounds like the question was answered in that, number one, the dev fund is prevented from voting because of the bylaws, and that the bylaws will be made public at a future date that there is no timeline for at the moment. But in the spirit and in the value of the foundation, in the value of transparency, we do intend to make those transparent at some point.
Yeah, I think too, it's really important to focus on the cultural aspect here too, right? Because you've had this tradition that has been with the Maker project since its early days, and Rune or whoever, or Nikolai could probably speak to this, that there was always a tradition of never voting the dev fund, but now there is a legal restriction on voting the dev fund. So we're trying to make that, trying to ensure that the community is the one that is actually operating the Dai Credit System.
Yes, exactly. All right, so I'm going to move forward because we're already 10 minutes into the call, and I want to cover a lot of the community's questions. So in regards to the board, what is the legal term for this board? Is it a board of directors, or are they, quote, members of the Cayman-based entity?
They're the board of directors.
Yeah, okay. Who chose the individuals of the MEGF board?
We had internal calls with the entire team at Maker, and then those were basically voted on, hand vote, in November, December. Yeah, for everyone that worked at the company, we had 8 hours of these things, and Chris was even on them too. So we were all on these phones. Yeah, Chris. I talked to you.
When was there a vote though?
Chris, you were on the phone.
There was a vote at the all hands meetings.
We had all hands meetings through December, where we discussed this.
When was my last day? When was my last day, Brian?
Chris, you were on these phone calls. Look, I don't.
Hey,
I'm not
David, can I jump in here? I feel like there's a total lack of context as to what's going on, and we've jumped into this really contentious debate.
Yeah.
Can we talk about what is so contentious right now? Like, what are we actually talking about?
Yes. Okay. Sure. Hold on, Brian. Give me 1 second. So let me kind of center us for a second.
Sure.
Number one, I intended for the format to be question and answer between me and Brian, and then afterwards we'd have additional questions. Chris kind of jumped in hastily, and we've been having a bit of a contentious debate, which seems to be confusing everybody. This debate and this whole question and answer format was inspired by the fact that there is questions outstanding about the nature of the board, the nature of the multi-sig/dev fund, about the nature of the legal entities involved in MakerDAO, and generally speaking, we are covering as many of those questions as I have been able to identify. That's the general purpose of this Q&A.
And is the concern just like a lack of clarity from the maker, or is there something a different concern as well?
I don't
Brian,
know
if you want to speak to that. From my perspective, the community is concerned from lack of clarity.
Oh, no, I mean, I just don't want to be yelled at on the phone. I'm more than happy to answer as many questions and talk for as long as everyone wants, but I just think it's, if you want to have a civil conversation, just ask the questions calmly and we'll answer them.
So, exactly. So let's continue on with some of the other questions that I have, and then I see people in the chat asking certain things, which I think I already have in these questions. So just ask your questions after this round. So when was MegaF incorporated? Is MakerDAO a company?
MegaF was incorporated on December 17th, 2018. And MakerDAO refers to, well, I'll say this with MakerDAO. It refers to the community that operates the Dai Credit System. And if you think about, there's an article that we published. Oh, I can't remember the exact date. I think it's on our blog. I think
I have it. I'll post it in the
January, chat, where we talk about differentiating between all the terminology that we use, right? The foundation refers to this. MakerDAO refers to the community. This refers to that. And I think it would be better said if you went through that Medium article, because it does explain kind of all the different terminology and the relationships of that terminology in the community. So foundation is this, MakerDAO is this. I can't Maker ecosystem growth group is kind of referring to the entirety of things like that. But the MakerDAO community is, I mean, it's a DAO, right? It's this loose agglomeration of individual maker holders that vote and are governing the the Dai Credit System protocol.
So Brian, can you speak more to the division of the division between the DAO aspect of MakerDAO and the foundation as an entity and its purpose in the ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. Let me think about the best way to word that. So I would say that, so you have the DAO's centralized protocol. It's being governed by MKR holders. That's the starting point we have to go from. Secondary to that, the foundation is one of a number of players, a number of different companies that are building businesses and lines of business, different products on top of that decentralized protocol. So it's important to note MakerDAO is governing the protocol, businesses, including those built by the foundation and others, whether you're building InstaDApp, whether you are, someone like, and I gotta give credit to Chris and to Lev here for the Dai stablecoin .science work that they're doing, which I think is excellent and core to the community. And then any other products that people are building on, I don't have any of them right off the tip of my tongue, but all these other companies that are building really innovative things on top of the Dai decentralized protocol. Right?
Got it. Excuse me. So a follow-up question. Has the nature of what the dev fund is used for changed as a result of these organizational changes that we've gone through over the new year?
No. It's always been used to fund specific projects that are being worked on by the small group of individuals that are currently make up the foundation, and then used to seed projects that are under the foundation or being built on in the community. I think that's probably the loose way of describing it.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Sure.
So the next round of questions are going to be in regards to the removal of members from the board multi-sig. So I guess I'll just jump into it. So why was there a need to remove people from the board / multi-sig?
So
Hold on. The statement from the
sure.
foundation said they wanted to have more than just technical people on the board, but that does not necessitate removing people unless it was because just having too many signers is complicated. Yeah, basically, why were people removed from the multi-sig?
You know, I mean, I would love to get into this with you guys, but you know, the subject of the internal subject of the board. You know, we've received correspondence from representatives of members of the board. So I'm really not at, unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to discuss this stuff, especially on a recorded call in public. It's something that's still in contention to a certain degree. So I'm really, my hands are really tied to even start going into some of these subjects.
Would you be
I apologize. I apologize for that. But it really is just the kind of reality that we find ourselves in.
Would you be comfortable releasing that correspondence that you received?
I think you probably have it, Chris.
Not for me.
but no. I mean, I'm not at liberty to disclose these things. If someone wants to contact the former members of the board and have them send their letters, I mean, this is a free country. You can do that.
So you're giving them permission to send to.
I'm not giving anyone permission to do anything, Chris.
Would you be comfortable? So the answer is no. You would not be comfortable sharing the correspondence.
It's not. No, Chris. This isn't Brian's deposition here, where you're given the opportunity to try to paint me into some sort of corner. I'm telling you, my answer is, I can't discuss those matters. I can't control what people do. Nor do I want to. I can't control what some people do with regards to whatever letters they have or they send.
Okay.
But,
sorry, go on, Brian.
Sure, but that's it. There's nothing
Okay.
really else for me to say.
All right. So moving forward, I would also like to ask. A lot of people are asking about the identities of the members of the board / old multisig and the identities of the new board and new multisig. And what our policies are as to disclosing those identities.
Oh no, I think it's really I think when you disclose the identities of people that sit on the multi-sig, it puts them at a security risk for a number of reasons. I don't think you would have any person with access to or with some level of control over a significant sum of funds. You don't disclose that person's identity because it puts them seriously at a security risk. And I'm not just saying that as a way of avoiding the question. I mean, think about it, right? If you're walking down the street and I have a key that allows me, and I'm not one of them, but if you have someone walking down the street with a hardware wallet that allows you to access, a large sum of money, that makes you a target regardless of where you live. So I would not feel comfortable, and we don't feel comfortable disclosing those identities publicly.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, so what are other legal entities involved in MakerDAO development, and what is their role? And I guess to add on to that, probably, if you don't have the answer right in front of you, Brian, because I know our organizational structure is pretty vast, would we be willing to disclose that organizational structure publicly?
Yeah, at some point, like when we
Brian, you're cutting out. Hold on.
It's putting together, the org chart. Can you hear me right? Hello, do you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I
Hello?
can hear you now. Yes.
Sorry, guys. I'm in our co-working space, and all the phone booths are taken up. So I'm sitting in there's a utility closet downstairs. We have a couch. It's the only place where you have a couch that's actually comfy, but the reception's a little bad. But what I was saying is, I'm sure as part of the Claro's transparency report, we can go into giving everyone a fulsome description of kind of where entities sit, who employs what, and then frankly too, the services we use to pay one-off employees that work in Hungary or something, right? The way that we go about doing that in a compliant manner. I'm sure that would be fine. I mean, similar to what you would have. And, Chris can remember back to this, we always talked about when we were working together, what's the best way that we can really be transparent for the community? I think something like the Claros Transparency Report, where we make that information available and for everyone to read and understand kind of what's going on here, so you have confidence that the foundation is a professional outfit and making good decisions as far as the lines of business it's developing, or the people it's employing, etc. I'm sure we could make that part of a something similar to the Claros Transparency Report.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
So there's another question here. I'm just gonna read it, and you can answer it as you see fit, Brian. I'm sure everyone would
Sure.
like you to give as much insight as possible as to the nature of the disagreement between Nikolai and the Foundation. If you are unable to say for legal reasons, please say. If you would rather someone else speak to the issue, please let us know. If and when we might get more insight.
Sure. No, I mean, Nikolai's mad about the voting. He's mad about people not voting. He's mad about having the voting interface, from what I understand. And to the extent he's mad about other things with regard to these letters I was talking about, I can't comment on that. But I mean, the voting interface, I think he was upset that, frankly, he was upset that he felt that people at the foundation weren't giving it enough time or effort. But I mean, Nikolai's been doing other projects for the last 6 to 8 months, so I haven't heard from him with regard to Maker until very recently.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me see what outstanding questions there are left. All right, so I believe I covered all the questions in my stuff. I'm gonna cover a couple of questions I saw in the chat now. What kind of for-profit activities is the foundation involved in?
For-profit activities the foundation involved in.
You're cutting out a bit, Brian.
I'll look back and look back. The fact itself. I said, oh Lord, I'd have to look back and see exactly where the for-profit, activities sit. Trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, really, everything that's kind of going on with the foundation is everything is being built towards, whether it's whether it's doing through the, a lot of those things are geared towards supporting the growth of projects top of the Dai Credit System. I mean, I'm sure at some point in the future they could run a profit, but at this point, I don't know off the top of my head.
What about the trading desk? You can see in the.
What about the trading? I'd have to ask Joe about that.
Is Joe a member of the foundation?
I don't have.
Chris, why are you being so harsh, man? I'm your business partner. You're being harsh to fucking Brian and all this. Come on, man. If you want to be harsh, you can go take it offline off a recorded call. This is ridiculous.
I would like to voice my opinion that Chris is being not harsh at all and being totally fair and asking the same questions I want to hear from.
Joe, it's Joe. Joe's Chris is.
Brian, you're gonna have to back up a minute or so. You're cutting out every second word.
Yeah, no, I don't know exactly what he's doing, but I just don't know off the top of my head. First of all, hey, what's up, buddy? Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, guys. Can you hear me? Okay. Hello.
Yeah, you're coming through now.
Sure.
We lost the last sentence or two from you.
Hello.
Yep. Yeah, we could hear you now.
Okay.
Are you there?
It's fine. That's fine. Chris can ask his make like that's why this is. I don't know exactly how the prop desk is doing off the top of my head. I mean, that's probably a better question for the governance calls on Thursday. It's just really not in my bailiwick to know exactly how that I don't know it off the top of my head, you know.
So the question of whether the trading desk is a for-profit activity should be directed to a different person at a different venue. So right now we're going to focus more on the current sort of questions at hand.
Yeah, sure.
So here, let me ask another one. Where can we see how the proceeds from the DEF fund are being used? Is financial data from the foundation going to be made public at any point?
How the proceeds are being used from the DEF fund? Yeah, I'm sure. I think the times like whenever there's been an MKR sale from the DEF fund, right? For example, Andreessen, we negotiated that deal. What was it last? I remember, Chris. It was like last August, last September, and then we did the sale in September, and then like the next week we announced that we sold X amount of MKR, or X amount of MKR was sold from the dev fund to Andreessen, and the detailed kind of how that went about. I think with regard to any sales, any sales that are to take place with kind of institutional players or what have you, or grants or donations, if we're donating MKR to the Salvation Army or what have you, I'm sure that would not be a problem. Does that make sense?
A bit. Can you give me like the one sentence version, because I kind of flew over my head a little bit?
No, what I was saying is, can you repeat the question? It was whether or not we could make financial data.
Yeah, where can we
to
see how the funding is being used, and as an extension to that, will the finances of the foundation ever be made public and transparent?
Yeah, sure. So I think the way that we go about doing something like that is, the Claros transparency report is kind of a really good roadmap, which I think would be beneficial at the end of the day for us to sort of kind of follow, right? Like you'd have funds were being spent on development, funds were being spent on grants, and then you could just go through kind of percentages of where those funds are being allocated, right? Like if you sell, if X amount of MKR leaves the dev fund and goes to the grant program, and the grant program seeds 15 different grantees, you can easily follow that kind of trail of money, not just looking at it, seeing that it's being shifted from the dev fund ether address, but actually looking, okay, wow, InstaDAP got a grant, or CP Insurance or what have you got a grant because they're building this product. I'm sure that would be easy to do.
Okay.
Not easy, but I mean, I won't speak for anyone. I'm not a financier, so I won't speak for anyone to do that. But I think as part of a Claros-like transparency report, I think it'd be a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So just to be clear, so the foundation is for the transparency of finances and is totally not against them.
Yeah, why would be against it? There's nothing to hide.
I think that's just generally speaking the fear that I'm trying to address.
I think yeah, no, I think the one thing is it's, and I'm just making a point. I mean, I think sometimes, if some people don't get an answer that they want, or if some people hear an answer that they don't like to a kind of a twisted question, like how many times, how often do you beat your children or something? If they don't get the answer they like to a question like that, they tend to be very, very aggressive. And in being aggressive, trying to allude to some nefarious conduct on part of the people that are answering the question. Which is unfair.
I think that's largely the purpose of like why we're trying to have this Q&A is to just kind of make things as clear as possible.
I'm not trying. Look, I'm not here to cast aspersions on anyone. We're all members of the same community. We're all trying to ensure that, well, hopefully, when multi-collateral Dai comes out, that this is really a success. And to the extent that there's this appearance of adversarialness, on this phone call, otherwise, I can tell you, me personally, and speaking on behalf of the foundation, we don't have that. And we're looking to really kind of everyone work together. I know it sounds trite, it sounds cliche, but it's not. Trying to be as transparent as possible to the furthest extent we can be. I mean, there's things obviously that you can't be transparent about, right? Because you know, if someone slips and falls in our office and breaks their leg and they sue us, or they sue whatever, you know, who's working in the office, and there's something that deals with that, like, that's not going to be transparent, right? But things that you should be transparent about, there's no problem with that.
So Anthony Hincliffe, and I'm actually going to cover David Hoffman's other question as well, but
Sure.
we're running a little bit late. I kind of want to end the Q&A at 12:40, and then we're going to do the last 20 minutes for the regular programming of the call. And then next week, Brian has informed me before the call that he's willing to come on again next week. So,
if you guys look, I mean, I'm more than happy to show up here at any community call, really, and talk about whatever's kind of going on to the extent I can. More than happy to do that. Make myself available as much as possible. So no problem at all.
So okay, so let me kind of get through these questions really quick. So David Hoffman asks, what's the plan to turn the dev fund from MKR to USD? Is there a reason why the foundation wants to keep the dev fund in MKR form?
What's up? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part. I was giving a text message.
Sure. What's the plan to turn the dev fund from MKR to USD? Is there a reason why the foundation wants to keep the dev fund in MKR form?
No, I think ultimately, you know, I just don't have the financing plan in front of me. I think probably Rune probably be the better person to talk to about that. I think probably, you know, over the next, look, I think ideally at some point in the future, you have a situation where the debt fund is distributed. You know, we get to a point where if we're not, you know, whether we're there or not, I'm not opine on, but you want to get, if you're a decentralized project, or your company's working on a decentralized project, you want to get to the point where you can be sufficiently decentralized, you know, to use the legal terminology that was in Commissioner Hinman's speech from last June. I think that's obviously the optimal goal. Not saying one way or the other whether we're there, but I'm just saying I think that's the optimal goal for any project that's being kind of built in this space.
Sure. All right.
Sure.
Cool. So another, actually a comment. So Anthony Hincliffe in the chat writes, these answers haven't been clear. The situation with the board and dev fund has not been explained at all. I think we covered this earlier, that Brian is unable to speak to the details of that situation.
Wait, who is, just so I can't see the chat, who is asking that?
Anthony Hincliffe. Yeah, and I think it's a question from a lot of people in the community.
Anthony, I mean, Anthony, like I said, it's an unfortunate situation that I can't, especially with regard to the board, I can't really get into it. I'm sure if you talk to Chris, you know, he has his own viewpoints on things that I would imagine he'd be willing to share with you. But I'm just not in a position where I can comment on it. Look, I would love to sit here and talk about it all day long, but I'm not in a position where I can discuss it. So I'm sorry that answer isn't, you know, what you would prefer, and we're trying to do my best to at least, I'm trying to do my best. We're trying to do our best to make sure that we get at least as much as we can across to you. And that's frankly, that's the best I can do.
Maybe a nice like intermediary step would be to disclose the correspondence that you were referencing.
Well, I would think maybe that, you know, the individuals who sent it can do that. I can't, you know, one way or another. You know, it's not my correspondence.
You can't disclose that, is what you're saying?
Well, I mean, Chris, this is not my deposition today, Chris. Okay?
But the answer is then no, that you can't.
No, it's Chris. I've told you. I said this. I already answered this question 45 minutes ago whenever we started the call. I can't control what people do with their own letters. And I'm not in a position, and we're not in a position to disclose that.
So Jordan Crandall asks, has there been consideration to eventually not have the multi-sig at all, but global settlement up to maker holders only? Hold on, I'm going to make some clarifications about this. I know that could put the system at risk. Just wondering, is that a long-term goal? So just to be clear, the multi-sig does not have special ability to call a global settlement. Not as far as I know. Yeah, if you want to speak to that, Brian, you can.
I think probably Rune would be the best person to talk to. In my opinion.
Yeah, right now global settlement is up to MKR holders, or at least up to an executive vote. All right. So Anthony Hincliffe asks a follow-up question. He says, "Understood. Do you think the situation will be public at some stage?"
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know offhand, Anthony. I don't know offhand, and maybe at some point, I can't say one way or the other. I think at the end of the day, I think it's one of those. You look at kind of the history of a company moving from different stages, and this. All I can say is, we're kind of at a position where things are moving forward in a different way than they were before. And at some point in the future, perhaps, as part of the maker biography or what have you that someone writes, hopefully, it could be in that book or in that chapter. But I'm not in a position to say one way or the other. Sorry, that's not. I know that's not the answer you want me to say or that you want to hear, but that's the best I can give you.
Basically, the clear answer is that you don't really have insight as to what is going to happen and what can be disclosed.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're asking me to predict the future. I just can't do that.
All right. Ashley asked earlier, and I missed it, but she asked Brian just to confirm. You said that MKR holders control the foundation? ? And I think
no,
that
I
was
didn't.
a question directed
didn't.
to one of
No,
the earlier things that you asked. You said.
I did not say that. If I said that, I misspoke.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Sure.
All right, so it's 12:37. I said I'd extend it for 3 minutes. So hold on. Lev has a comment. FYI, you can see the authority for initiating global settlement in the current deployment of single collateral Dai by querying auth. Yeah, maker token hold approval voting. You'll see that it points to the chief. Yeah.
No. I guess are we done with the Q&A, or do you guys want to keep going?
Well, I think we're gonna cut it off right after one more question because I know Maxwell was asking a question just a bit unrelated to the rest, but it's regards to MKR being a security or not and how that is going. I mean,
it's in the mix of things that we can or cannot talk about. I mean, this is another one, right? As part of our, kind of regulatory outreach. I mean, you guys have heard me give the same answer. I gave the same answer last summer. We're working on that issue. We're working with. I'm comfortable disclosing that we're working with the best lawyers in the space on those issues, and I sincerely hope to be able to give you guys the clarity and guidance that, or at least give you the clarity that you want at some point very soon. I know it's not, like I said, it's not the optimal answer. I wish I had something better for you. I really do. But I can guarantee you we are working with the most sophisticated counsel in the space to get clarity on these issues.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Brian. And also, a couple of people are asking if you'd be willing to stay on for more Q&A after the meeting is concluded.
I mean,
that's up to you.
Guys,
I've already said.
Guys, look. I mean, I really do have to do a lot of work today, with a number of things. I'm more than happy to come back. I'm more than happy. You know what? If you want me to, if everyone wants me to stay on for another 20 minutes, more than happy to do that. I really do have a hard stop though at 1:00. So.
Oh, okay. I was planning to actually do it
you
after the meeting. Yeah, so I think it's best. It's best if we move this to next week, and I think we're gonna organize this for next week for more questions, I guess.
Look, and I mean, everyone knows my handle on Rocket Chat. If you have questions, you can ping me. I mean, I'm more than happy to get on another call with a group of people if they want to have a discussion or something. Like I said, I'm trying to give everyone as much as we possibly can, the satisfaction that we're being as transparent as we possibly can. So, trying to be reasonable. And let me before I get off the phone, I want to thank everyone for your time. I know sometimes things get kind of contentious, or at least they have the appearance of getting contentious. There's no joy on my part of giving the appearance of any contention with anybody. I frankly think Chris and the guys at SCP, they've done a lot of interesting things with Dai stablecoin.science, and we're really thankful that they've actually been doing that. So, to the extent that sometimes these things get a little heated because of past relationships, that has nothing to do with the MakerDAO community or anything else. So I hope everyone understands that, we appreciate everyone's comments, and I'm not just saying that facetiously, I'm being sincere about it. So on that note, I will let you guys.
I appreciate you coming on the call a lot. And
no worries, guys. This is fun. This is a lot of fun. I never get to do this stuff, so I don't mind doing it.
All right, good. And I think it's also really important to stress the fact that we're all on the same team here. We all want to see MakerDAO come to fruition, to its vision, and we're all ultimately working towards that goal.
Yeah, of course. Anyway, guys, I have to jump, but take care, everybody. Yeah. See you later.
All right, thank you, Brian. All right, cool. So that concludes the session for the Q&A. If you guys are interested in asking additional questions, or seeking, I guess, clarity on questions that had already been asked, this call is recorded, so the recording is gonna be posted on Reddit in the next day. Hopefully, I will have it on by the end of today, actually. And then next week, Brian can come on, and I'm gonna see if I could try to organize the questions from the community again, and try to make it less last second, because Brian did agree to come on this morning. So now that we know he's going to be on next week, we could do a little bit better at curating those questions. All right, so to move on with the call, I'm going to go through sort of the things that we usually go through: the events, the partnerships, the online events, the milestones, what's been going on in the community. So a few big ticket items. We have the governance poll that was launched on Monday about the proposed stability fee increase. There are 5 options on this poll: stay as it is, 1%, 2%, 3%, and 4%. There is currently, I think, 40,000 plus MKR on the 4% option, and it seems to be like that is a leader. But at the same time, DS Chief has blown up to surpass the multisig, as I've learned this morning. So there's actually 280,000 MKR sitting in the voting construct. So that is actually really exciting to see. And so this governance poll, I believe, will conclude an hour before Thursday's meeting. So it's going to be going on basically through today and tomorrow. I think I'm right about that, but might be wrong. Either way, the governance poll is going to be going on for the next couple of days, and feel free to vote if you haven't. And also, if you're curious about the discussion and the analysis and all the kind of stuff that is in the background of this vote, join us on r/mkrgov. There's a lot of really high quality discussions going on there, and we encourage you to share your opinions, your views, your analysis. Anything you can to contribute to the overall governance function is definitely appreciated.
David, is there a specific cadence that we're going on from now, or is it like, I guess it was my understanding from last week when we were talking about this that like the plan going forward was going to be like, so if we're going to do a stability fee increase, we're going to do the stability fee increase like every week, as opposed to kind of like, yeah, go ahead, sir.
Sure. I was going to defer to Rich here, because I think Rich has been spearheading a lot of the governance stuff.
So the governance process is constantly evolving. We've been iterating it basically weekly since we started. In the last call, there was some really cool clarity that came out of that, where we've spent a lot of time talking about whether we should be hawkish or dovish. And we got bogged down in this conversation about what range should be presented instead of what range could be presented or should just continuously be presented. And that's sort of where we left that conversation. There's a lot of active conversations happening in MakerGov where we're still debating that, but I'm reasonably sure at this point, and obviously it's not my call, people need to let us know what they want to see, but it feels like the idea now is that every single week on Monday, a poll goes out with a default range, and then we collect the community sentiment, and then we have an executive on Friday, and that's going to continue, I guess. Like I'm not saying it will, but it's likely that that's just going to continue until the peg has been restored. And then at that point, if I had to guess again, I would think that we'll probably decide that that's pretty onerous and we don't need to do it every single week if things are fine. And then we'll turn it off and then maybe turn it back on if the peg destabilizes in the future.
Yeah, that's great, because I mean, I know you guys are looking at it today, and it's still not looking good. So
yeah, well, that's the major concern that we've been having here, and this is one of the things that it unfortunately spiraled out of control a bit. But like the tensions are high, and this is an important subject. Arguably, from my opinion, it is literally the most important thing that we do at MakerDAO is the stability of the peg. Everything else flows from that. People have different opinions, but that's what we look at it. And so we've had all these very complex, very long discussions about how do we maintain that? How do we acquire the data we need to determine whether the peg is healthy? How do we know whether the things that we did are having an effect? How do we, there's all kinds of discussions. 2 calls ago, maybe, there was this general sense, and like, I have to caution that I kind of choke whenever I say general sense, because I don't want there to be general sense coming out of these calls, but that's just kind of what happened until we have the data. There was this general sense that nobody knows what's going on, what the cause and effect is, and that we need to wait a week to try and collect some data over the last, from the last big increase that we did. It probably wasn't communicated effectively, or like not everybody completely understood that when we wait a week, that actually means there's 2 weeks, because we still need to do a poll before the next executive happens, before another rate increase can happen. And so frustrations got high over the course of those 14 days that the community or whoever is in charge of MakerDAO wasn't doing things correctly. But at that point, I think that we understood that we need to have a regular cadence, because the wait and see thing puts us 2 weeks behind schedule. So that's the plan right now. We're going to do a weekly poll and then a weekly executive, and then see what happens.
that's great.
Thank you, guys. Good question, good answer. All right. In other news, we have this thing called beta.eth2dai.com, where some members of our team proposed an ETH2DAI user interface upgrade. The upgrade involves an instant page similar to how Oasis.direct used to function, where you can quickly swap ETH for DAI or vice versa. And it also includes an upgrade that allows a read-only mode, where you can now look at the exchange both on a web and mobile device without MetaMask. So you will not be able to trade, but you'll be able to like check the current order book, look at the price chart, etc. So just some UI improvements to the ETH2DAI. Let me just check the chat really quick, see if I am not missing anything. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so those are sort of the 2 bigger updates. There was also a new developer guides section that was added to Awesome MakerDAO. So our team has been actively producing documentation and guides for people like our integration partners, for wallets, for exchanges, for the eventual transition from single collateral DAI to multi-collateral DAI, guide to the DAI token itself, like a technical guide. So there's a bunch of really cool resources that our team is spinning up. Definitely check that out if you're a developer and you are building with us. So there's also an FAQ that we are continuing to roll out to the community. So just to recap on this initiative, community development has been working on a canonical sort of list of FAQs that cover sort of each of the major topics or modules of the system. And so we've been releasing those to the community every week. And the goal of that is basically to have the community look them over, add questions if they see fit, give us feedback on sentence structure, grammar, clarity, basically gives anybody a chance to give us some feedback and improve on the FAQ. And then after that, these FAQs will be hosted on GitHub, where people will still be able to submit pull requests and update those FAQs, but they are meant to be community resources. And so this week we launched the FAQ for liquidations. It's an updated FAQ, so there used to be a post that we often linked to everything you wanted to know about liquidations, and now that is captured in this new FAQ that we posted. Yes. Let me check the chat. All right. Yeah, so a couple of partnerships this week. Nitrogen partnered with Maker. DAI is now available on their new launchpad. Nitrogen is basically a peer-to-peer lending DApp. They're they're non-custodial, so they have like smart contracts and stuff. Definitely look into them, but they are now using Dai for peer-to-peer lending. Quant Fury as well is a new partner of ours. There's free trading of stocks, crypto pairs, ETFs, and commodities using the Dai stablecoin. It's not available in the US, but nevertheless, it is another partner who's using Dai. That's about it for all the sort of official bigger updates. I'm going to move forward into highlights from the community, but before I do that, I'm just going to really quickly check the chat, see if there's any outstanding good questions that are relevant. So I see a couple of questions about the governance side of things. So we do host a Thursday community call, and there are a lot of conversations going on Reddit. So Fabian, you're asking about a raise in the Dai supply limit. I assume you're talking about the debt ceiling. You could find out more information or see what people have been saying about that on Reddit. Hey Jeffrey, do you mind if I just mute you real quick? Yeah, thank you. All right, cool. And then there's another question. Yeah, so I can actually answer Hans's question. So his question is, has MakerDAO officially registered companies in countries around the world, the US, or is it all gray area legal space? So the foundation has a structure. It has entities all around in different countries, yeah. And it's not gray area or legal. Well, I mean, I'll let Brian speak more to that next week, and you can ask that question then. But generally speaking, yeah, Maker operates as a legitimate organization. All right, cool. So some highlights from the community. So this week we have the MKR roll call being simplified. So all voting on this current governance poll will be counted at the snapshot of, I believe, April 11th, actually. So it used to be the 9th, but I think it was updated to be the very end of the governance poll. So anybody voting in this governance poll will be included in this sort of voter snapshot. There was also a really cool Twitter thread by Anthony Sassano called the MakerDAO State of Play. And it was a thread that basically covers bigger CDP activity during this bull market and just some fun highlights and insights from the data that we're able to observe, since we are all on a transparent Ethereum network. And so, yeah, Anthony did a pretty cool thread about that. I'm going to move on to developer creations. So we've seen a new CDP simulator, which looks really pretty because it sort of mimics our cdp.makerdao.com dashboard, but there's no MetaMask required. So you could have access to a CDP simulator that you won't be stopped by having to require MetaMask. And this is different because the older CDP simulator actually did require MetaMask, the one that I think a member of our team actually put out. So there's that. There was a bunch of great articles this week. There was one by Grapefruit Trading on the dollar stablecoin being worth 98 cents, talking a bit about what's been going on with our PEG and governance. There was an article called Getting Started with MakerDAO CDPs and Dai.js. So this article is pretty much, it is what it is in the title. It talks a bit about an intro to MakerDAO CDPs, and it talks about how to interface and get started interacting with Dai.js. There's also an article about MakerDAO aims to swap local South Korean currencies with stablecoin Dai through the whole Vanta partnership and the stuff that our awesome community manager Do has been working to facilitate. There's another article called Decentralized Finance. Welcome to the world's first fully transparent bank. And that was actually a Medium article that was picked up by Zero Hedge. And yeah, it kind of got some air, which was pretty cool. And then there was another thing that happened in the community where a fake crypto project called Zolo was scamming Ethereum, Zilliqa, and MakerDAO users by faking a partnership and basically trying to, I don't know if they were trying to fish people, but I had gotten an email from them, and I know a number of people from our community got an email from them. So definitely stay on the lookout for people trying to scam you. That is the reality.
Hey, David, can you link that article that you were talking about just before?
The Zero Hedge article or the South Korea one?
The decentralized global reserve bank, that one.
Yeah, I got you, man. Here you go.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and by the way, I have a document for everybody here. It's just it covers the agenda. There's links to all of the stuff I'm talking about here, so feel free to check that out. All right, cool. So that's pretty much the end of my highlights for articles. And then there was a couple of interesting threads. One actually by you, David Hoffman. The bold and drastic action is a bad idea. Had a bunch of really interesting discourse in it. And then there was another thread. What are some topics related to the collateral portfolio you'd like to see discussed on the governance call? And this was actually a thread that was put up by the foundation's own Cyrus Unesi, and he was trying to gauge community sentiment about the other side of governance. So just to speak to that, there's kind of two sides to governance that are emerging. There's like a monetary policy side where we talk about rate increases of the stability fee and managing the peg. But then there's also going to be conversations and a decentralized risk function surrounding the entire collateral portfolio, new collateral that multi-collateral Dai will eventually accept, and so there was just sort of a thread to gauge the community on what you guys want to talk about in regards to the collateral portfolio to begin the conversations, really. So check that out. There's a ton of other great threads. I mean, with this active agenda that I put together every week, I kind of just go for the ones that have, in my opinion, the most interesting sort of comments, and and I try to be diverse and try to give you guys a bit of a flavor of some of the conversations that are happening in our community. But generally speaking, these two threads are not all what happened this week. You check out our Reddit. I definitely encourage anybody to become a part of the conversation. I know a lot of our community is really wonderful at answering questions and really wonderful at actually engaging people with contrary opinions. And that's actually one of the things that really drew me personally to MakerDAO. So definitely engage with us online. So that pretty much covers all the stuff I had in my agenda that I just wanted to cover in the last 20 minutes or 30 minutes of the call, which it seems like we're about 2 minutes to the hour. So I'm going to really quickly just read through the chat. And in the meantime, while I'm reading through the chat, feel free, anybody who's on the call, to voice any particular questions or things I might have missed that you want to highlight, or anything really community related.
What about the first meetup in Uganda? Or
yeah, that's right.
Do you guys have any more color on that? I just saw the post in the chat, but
yeah, sure, absolutely. So Abdul came to the community a few months ago, and he's been learning a lot about Dai, and I think that he's actually one of the first recipients for our do-it-yourself meetups program that we have been in the process of launching over the last few weeks, and it was really exciting to see that emerge. And I think there was a big emphasis on and off ramps, blockchain in general, and then Dai in general. But yeah, that was one of the first meetups in Ghana that we've seen.
Like, does he have any feedback on what seems to be barriers to entry? I mean, is it understanding MetaMask, downloading apps? Is it cell phones? Is it access to the internet? All of this other stuff.
Those are great questions. Yeah.
I have this anecdotal experience of a fairly sophisticated person just not understanding that they had to both download an app and then receive cryptocurrency in order to start using it. So I'd just be curious what kinds of we can glean from those guys.
In my conversations with him, he's spoken a lot about the fact that people mostly just have mobile phones, smartphones that they interact with, and I think the two bigger ones that he spoke about were Alpha Wallet. In his local community, there's obviously some subset of people that are able to use mobile wallets and things like that, but he did air the frustration about basically on and off ramps for Dai, and then generally speaking, education, which is the purpose of I think his meetup is to really start educating younger people who might have an influence on their broader community.
Sorry, David, for interrupting this conversation, but I was in touch with this guy, and I checked his slides, and I checked his video of his meetup already, and I checked his. He sent me over his Facebook group that I already checked, and he used Alpha Wallet because I shared him my slides, and I used Alpha Wallet in my slides, so that's why he used that wallet. Yeah, and I'm in touch with him almost daily, and I'm checking up on him, and he's doing a great job in Ghana.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that MakerDAO has this kind of person in Ghana, and I'm looking forward to probably another meetup from this guy. And he's very active and smart, and he's got very good knowledge about Maker.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that the whole goal for meetups like that is really education and trying to answer a lot of Chris's questions, because I'm also very curious about some of those, especially in regions like Ghana, right? But anyway, this has been the end of the call officially. It's 1:02, so we're a little bit past the hour. So definitely feel free to leave. I'm going to be ending the recording of this call. So thank you guys for coming for sure, but I'm going to hang out for a few minutes here just to talk with some of you. But anyway, thank you for coming to the Tuesday community call. Can't wait to have you guys next week. Thank you.